the involvement they are in ministry and the involvement they are in each other's lives and things like that. So they may not be a part of the everyday decisions of the church and the operations of the church, but there is a sense of trusting in the leaders and the elders of the church that you've put into place to do that, and there's a relational thing connecting. Oh yeah, here's another piece of the puzzle. Like, we don't, most of our elders, a couple of our elders know who gives because of accountability, so does our executive lead, but I don't know who gives in the church. I don't know what they give. There's been a few exceptions to that. A couple of years ago, someone came up to me and said, hey, whatever we give for our generosity project this year, I will double it. I'm like, so what number are you going to give? He's like, well, until my bank account is empty. I'm like, can you help me again? How much do you have in your bank account? You know? But I found out then how much this person had, but for I don't know who gives what at Imprint Church. I treat everyone the same amount of, my hope is that I never have favoritism. The Bible speaks of favoritism, and I don't want to be a favoritistic person, so we don't know that.
Yeah, Charlene, that was the only decision that we made that was based on finances, the Bothell Building project.
Sure.
And we did have a number we needed to reach, and so somebody with a particularly large bank account could have gotten us to that level. But at that point, then the folks that do know who gives would say, hey, there's really only one person that thinks we should do this, and everybody thinks it's a terrible idea, and that would have pumped the brakes. Most other decisions are, hey, we think that God is leading us in this direction. Would you spend the next 30 days praying about it and be in conversation with us about it? So again, that was the only one where, as far as I know, that's true. Yeah, the only decision we've made that's based specifically on finances.
Get a question real quick.
Yeah, a couple questions.
Yeah.
So there's a couple of other churches that use this facility as well.
Yeah.
You guys are just stick around, and some of us are kind of here with them, I guess.
That's great. Yeah.
Whatever the word is for that.
Yeah, that's a great question, and it's actually really important to Imprint because the building that we have in Bothell that we own. We became landlords when they gifted us the building because there's a church called Monte de Sion, which is Mount Zion in Spanish, that has been meeting in the Bothell building for about 15 years. And so we feel this real sense of responsibility to them to say, just because God entrusted us with ownership of this building, like God's been doing good work here. I love the pastor, his name's Pastor Cesar. And there's some bumps in the road of trying to figure out how to do, like be roommates essentially, you know, like figure out like who puts what away, who does the dishes, you know, that type of thing. But we feel like God loves them just as much as He loves us, not just because we own the building, we have more money than them, but we feel really responsible. Like we want them to be in the building for as long as the Lord will allow them to be in the building. And when it comes to this building, then we would have to have conversations as well and just see what works. We wouldn't be coming in with a mindset, well, this is a building, so now we can do whatever we want. That's not the way that God calls us to operate. So I think we would really want to use this and maximize the resource that God has given here, realizing there's only so much work and impact that can be had through one congregation. And if you have other congregations that are meeting here, you can actually multiply and see greater impact through other churches. So we'd like to see that continue. I mean, we have to talk about the relationship and what are the ins and outs of a lease and things like that. How do you arrange it all? So
I worked at a ministry for 17 years, and we had a relational kind of leadership, and it sounds like similar to what you all do. And so we were able to hold each other accountable. We did policies together, and so I felt that was a real safeguard for every single person, including all the guests and residents that we had. And this sounds so strong to me by having different voices heard continually and holding each other accountable. And, you know, but having relationship be the paramount thing, which is what we had. I just want to say that because thank you. It's wonderful to see.
yeah, thank you for sharing that. I appreciate it. You guys have any comments on that?
We'll converge and local churches.
Yeah, no, I so align with that. I think that there's the idea of unity and uniformity. And we talk about this a lot. Like, there are some sweet times in life where we're uniform and everyone sees the same, right? And sometimes it actually gets a little dangerous because it's good to sharpen each other with different points of views. But we need to, as a church, as a board, as a lead team, have unity with the decisions. And I think that we attempt to do that too, and that does kind of align with what you said.
Thanks for sharing that.
It takes, you have a second question? It takes longer to do what you're talking about.
It does.
But it's worth it, and I think I've seen that.
And sometimes you back up and you feel like you're not getting anywhere, but
Yeah,
you
good.
do eventually come to a consensus in a good way.
Yeah, yeah. I felt the same way around this team. It would be easier to kind of feel like, hey, I want to make a decision here, but it was better to stop and be like, we need some consensus here between everyone. So
Yeah.
thanks for saying that. Yep.
And we also have some missionaries that we support. What is your general leanings on that?
Great question. You want me to do this?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Great question. The missionaries, we've talked a little bit about that. We actually think that in talking to missionaries, we'd want to have a conversation with them about what the mission is, what they're doing, where they're at, and have a relational connection with all our missionaries. So our typical missionary support has not been what the church traditional mission support is, especially on some of the older churches where they support individuals and families in places for long term, for multiple year. That's not been our traditional way of doing things. Our traditional way of doing things has been to support church plants and church planting efforts overseas. We do missionaries. So for example, we're a big part of African New Life Ministries that happens in Rwanda. I've been over, I don't know how many of you guys have been over there. Chad's going in March with my wife. I've been over there twice. And a team. That's awkward.
Just kidding.
Hey, I preached a lot of sermons today. Everything makes sense to me. And so we've done a lot of ministry in Rwanda, and we've helped support a couple ministries there that's basically just coming alongside the nationals who are there doing the ministry that they're doing, and just saying, how can we serve you? Like, we don't want to come in with kind of this white savior mentality and serve them in some way. Besides saying, like, what are you doing and how can we be part of that? And so this ministry is fantastic. Also through Multnomah, by the way, African New Life Ministries was birthed through Multnomah. And the executive leader of it came and went to seminary there, actually when I was in school there in the 90s.
Did we say that we were going to case by case?
Yeah, so case by
have a conversation.
Yep.
Talk about not just like.
Yeah, so for example, we definitely want to have a conversation with your missionaries and see where they're at, where they're serving, if there needs to be a transition off of perpetual church support or what that looks like. But we handle it on a case-by-case basis and see where they're at, so, yeah.
What is your music like? Worship?
Don't ask Chad.
Well, actually, somebody described it. You had a term that you described it like a modern hymns.
No, that wasn't me.
Who was that?
That was Darren.
Oh, Darren, you don't agree with that? I know, we do some hymns and we work hymns and we, like this morning at church, at least at Bothell, we sang Holy, 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 and the rest of it, that's what we finished with, and the rest of it was Christmas music. So we'll do stuff we want it to be theologically rich. So our main worship lead, his name is Rex Gorman, and his kind of ministry life tagline is, my goal is to get good theology stuck in people's heads. So we'll listen to songs that, some of them are, they tend to be contemporary, but doctrinal in the sense that we want to be singing about who God is, what He's done, not primarily, this is my devotion to God centered in my emotional experience. I mean, you're going to have those songs of devotion, and that's fine, but this consistent diet of worship would be a song where you are declaring things about who God is, what He's done, and certainly, like, if you wanted to subscribe to our newsletter, you can just go to our website, and very top, you can click subscribe to the newsletter, and every week we send out a church email, or every other week at least, and it'll tell you what are the songs that we're singing that coming Sunday at Woodinville and at Bothell. If you click on those things, it'll link. I think it links you right to like a YouTube video, and you can sample and see what we do. So,
Can I say one thing about that?
Do it. Yeah, you go first. There's a bar. People should play on time and in key. Play and sing. On time, in key. And then the community determines whether or not it is something that they can worship with, I think. So a worship leader might have some sensibilities, might prefer a particular genre of music or production or arrangement, etc. But if the community as a whole is so distracted by that, then it becomes a sing-along or it becomes something else other than worship. And so for Imprint Woodinville, Imprint Bothell, the community has determined that there's a particular aesthetic that works for them to, in unity, sing together and worship our King. That might hold true for an Imprint Kenmore location. It might be totally different. And then the gifting that God gives to that particular church will determine how excellent that level of worship can be. But there should be a bar, because bad worship only edifies people that already love that person and Jesus. It is not missional. Bad worship will distract somebody that doesn't know Jesus. So we should have a bar.
So we sing a lot of Getty